I told Commissioner Orson because of my positive feedback, he took the day off. I'm kidding, but he had planned to take the day off. So ready.
He already talked. You're on.
Okay.
You're being recorded.
We didn't do an agenda today. We just have 2 items we're going to go over, and I'll start with this item, which is the proposed scope of work for the HOJ feasibility study.
Recording in progress.
I haven't accepted it yet because I wanted to give it a chance for the board to review and provide feedback. I do plan on emailing this later today so that Commissioner Dahl gets a copy as well.
Good afternoon, Commissioner. Savannah Clement, Public Services. And what I've just handed you is a scope of work from AETA Architects for the proposed Hall of Justice feasibility review. We've met with them several times to go over some of the key features that had been communicated to me from the board. This is an opportunity for the board to review this, asking for no decisions to be made today, obviously. I plan on emailing it to the board, including Commissioner Dahl, and then reevaluating upon his return. In my email later this afternoon, I will include just a high-level bullet point overview of some of the key items, that I feel would be important for a review. Or you're welcome to read the 4 pages, make your own decision. So really, that was it. I really just wanted to give this introduction to the board and then have open discussion once Commissioner Dahl returns.
So this is to provide us with a rationale for either choosing to remodel the hall or start completely over.
That is correct. Just as a reminder, this is one of the, I guess I'd call it a recommendation, but a requirement probably is more like it from our USDA partner, who stated we would need this first and then move forward. Yep.
Can you impanel me? It's hard when you're not participating.
Yeah, that can be difficult.
Oh, that's better.
I discovered that happens quite often once you're a lame duck.
Quack. So this is a lot for me to digest on the fly.
Absolutely.
What I'm thinking I'm looking for, well, I'll be frank, from my perspective, based on what we saw in the presentation, that looks to me like it's a no-go. Because in addition to the issues that we talked about, there's some of the issues we didn't talk about, which is it changes all kinds of things, disrupts all kinds of stuff that we have going now. I don't know what it is we're going to be able to do with the juvenile detentions.
This is
different.
This is for the Hall of Justice
Oh, wrong.
feasibility.
Wrong.
There is a lot going on. So
Yeah.
trust me, I know when I'm seeing these emails come through, I really have to discern each of them. So
This went off of AETA?
right, AETA is doing both.
So they're doing both.
They are, because they're on call. Again, I don't have any expectations of, decision-making today. This is truly an opportunity for you guys just to read if you have specific questions. I will highlight one item. It's on the first page under project objectives. It doesn't explicitly say exploring lease options. And I know that that was a direction to the board, or excuse me, from the board. And it was also a direction I had given them on our first project scope review. So I will be following up with them on that. I think technically it could be under 2D, which is identify and review alternative sites for potential new courthouse and jail construction. It's not specific to lease opportunities, but it could be, I guess, potentially included in there. So I wanted to point that out because I do know it was a point for the board to follow through with, so.
So we could ask that a phrase be added to item D that says.
Yes, yep. And that's what again, this is not set in stone. This is all for review.
May include an
May include
appropriate
a
lease option.
lease, exactly, yes.
I would like to request that. Is that okay with you?
I'm.
Oh.
Restate, please.
So in project objectives, item D, where it talks about alternative sites, I just wanted a phrase in there that says, including possible lease options.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
So they opens up that door to them.
The reason I was delayed there, not only was I out to lunch on the other issue, but I'm looking at this and I'm thinking déjà vu. And I'm having trouble with that. And I'm not sure how to go ahead and not be déjà vu. I mean, this looks, I tried 5 or 6 years ago to get requirements from people, and I got some of them, but they were all over the map. The people that had, 5,000 square feet all of a sudden needed 20,000 square feet and that kind of stuff. And I don't know that these folks will have any way to bring that down to reality. In other words, hiring a consultant to do what we can't do because we don't seem to be inclined to be rational and honest within ourselves. I don't know how they can force that.
Maybe an additional clause might be under objective B, when you talk about identifying space needs, projected future requirements. You might add 1 or 2 additional Superior Court rooms. Whatever that would expand the potential needs, giving us
Well, that-
options for, for growth, because, the county's going to continue to grow, albeit slowly.
Mhm.
But that's what makes it so darn complicated. Within the Hall of Justice, we don't really have, my assumption is we don't really have a lot of growth capability.
Right.
If we were to go to someplace else,
Yeah. So remember, the original Hall of Justice had 3 courtrooms, and now they have 5 Superior Court rooms. So, I mean, there's that example. Of course, this is from 1975 until today, so it's, so they had a capacity for growth.
Mhm.
We maxed that out, other than the fact the jail's empty.
well, but then, yeah, I don't disagree with you. I have combed the hallways there. I don't, since the COVID event, I haven't done that a whole bunch, but I walk through there and I tell you, those courtrooms are empty more times than they're occupied. And I feel like this is the same old story in the governmentese. We've got a problem. Well, let's throw money at it. Let's throw another courtroom. Let's throw another another judge. And I'm looking at forget that last statement, just another courtroom. And it's like, come on, guys. And so I don't know how they can tell that.
I understand.
And for courtrooms in specific, I talked to the presiding judge and said, look, there are courtrooms across the country. Go find one that you like. Get the blueprints, should be in public domain, and we'll see what we can do. So then if we hand it to Ada, how do you pronounce her?
I'm fine with that. I say Ada, I'm good. We'll
Okay.
follow.
And then they have something to chew on. And I also wanted the modularization. What is a courtroom? It's this space and this space, including a bathroom and maybe a lunchroom or something, anything to
Mhm.
define it. I can't get boo from those people.
I will say, well, first of all, I don't disagree that you have a lot of valid points. I will say, I feel like there has been, I know there has been progress on that front on what your requests were. We have received a lot of good information. I'm guessing people were listening to you when you made that request, but I think it came to us and maybe you should have received that. We were asking for it. We did receive comparable courtroom designs from comparable sized counties, Thurston County being one of them. We did the site visit at Lewis County. So this isn't to say that sky's the limit on needs. It is definitely a component of this scope, but it will be looked upon, again, not as, what do you need? We're going to give it to you. We're going to be looking at comparable courtrooms in Washington State for our population and our needs. And it's not going to just be, not a free-for-all, that might not be the right word, but so I hear you, and we do have a lot of information that we're working on. So I just want to tell you that too, in regard to your requests from them.
Okay, and a piece of, if we choose option A meaning we're going to stay in place and refurbish the Hall of Justice, that's got a lot of cost because the courts have to continue. And I don't know if you remember when COVID struck, we used the event center. We were paying $40,000 a month for a virtually unused facility. I should say,
That's really when it jumped out at us.
oh,
Yeah.
yeah, it
Yeah,
was just,
that's, whoa, it's empty all the time.
yeah.
I wonder to what extent there is how do I say it carefully? Every judge wants their own courtroom. It's their silo.
Right.
And so that's the idea of, but having said that, I know we continue to get each week the schedule of everything that's going on over there. And
We used to. You still get it?
I still do, but do I study it? No.
Yeah.
But it's an indication that they're very busy and utilizing space. Because I don't, I think they go back and forth between courtrooms, but.
Yeah, any sense that the Superior Court says that their schedules are sacrosanct in some way? It doesn't seem to hold up because I've looked at some of those and I'm like, I'm going to watch this. Oh, it's not available. Okay, let me watch this other one. Oh, not available. Oh, so they have a lot more flexibility than they own up to. But that's a side issue.
And of course, I understand a lot of the schedule gets changed because cases get settled out of court. And but you got to plan for reserving a courtroom in case it doesn't settle, and then it settles and it's opened up again. And
Of course, that's.
I don't know if, I'm assuming it serves justice to settle things out of court, rather than going through trials. But, again, there's pressure brought to bear to get cases settled and for a lot of different reasons, so.
Yeah, and I don't want to portray that I have such an in-depth understanding about how the courts work by any means. I do know that we'll be learning a lot moving forward with, in conjunction with the Millig HVAC project. And then obviously if we move forward with this project, and at least giving the board information to hopefully make an informed decision, and whatever that may be. That really is the intent, and to try to gather as much information that we can provide you based on these types of conversations and questions, and give you guys the information that you're looking for. Whatever good, bad that means, depending on if you're in the hall or not in the hall, what direction that is. That's what the intent is. So the more information and background from the board that we have will only, have a better product, in my opinion, or at least a better set of options. So hopefully.
Yeah, I think along the way, say that we embark upon this, they'll have a lot of thinking to do about sort of zig or zag.
Yeah.
I would think you'd want to meet with the board at least every month to,
A pulse, just to have
Yeah, so there's so much that there'll be pressure on them from different people about this, and I think it'll come to us, we won't be here, but it'll come to us to kind of say, no, that isn't really valid pressure. And then there's some pretty heavy thoughts too. You mentioned the leasing. Well, there's some big thoughts there. And the financing of it is
Yes.
something that we probably want, well, certainly we need the PA's office in on that to know what we can and can't do in terms of
Mhm.
stuff. And Deborah also, and maybe once a month is about the right time to meet.
Well,
Agree.
we might actually discover in the next year or so that the lawyers don't have to actually be in proximity of the courtroom. Because we're going to have a law
Mhm.
firm right across the plaza from us.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And, there's going to be a lot of traipsing back and forth, but, it's customary, since we've had this Hall of Justice, that the PA is right next door. But
Mhm.
now the county clerk staff, no, that's different. That's got to be pretty close to that's got to be part of the courtroom. But
Mhm.
do lawyers, even prosecuting attorneys? I don't think so. Don't even have to have the sheriff there, really, other than providing security for the court, but
Mhm.
sheriff's office could be anywhere within Kelso, I think, or the
County
courts
seat.
have to be in Kelso.
Yes.
What makes these people the right people?
Etta?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, the easy probably, the easy go-to answer, and I won't sugarcoat it, is that we have a current contract and agreement with them. Furthermore, they work with a lot of local entities that we're familiar with, and that's why probably, I won't say that. We were eager to work with them because of their locality and the effect that they had on the local area and schools, but they've also worked in other courts. And so speaking on that, when we met with them on the first two walkthroughs, they did have a lot of experience in feasibility. So I was excited to partner with them for that reason as well.
So they wouldn't necessarily be the final architect. This is just the preliminary
No,
stage.
this is all preliminary, correct?
I was going to mention that the architect of the Hall of Justice had never built a courtroom before and
Interesting.
hasn't since.
Probably for good reason. No.
Yeah.
No, that is not to say that they will be the architects. This, whatever direction we move forward in, I believe we would need to go out to formal bid for an architect
Right,
firm. And whether they got it or not would be dependent upon the bid process.
How do they work with the Millig people?
Great question. We haven't had formal introductions or meetings yet, but in this document, they do reference our Millig energy contract. So that is something that we'll be moving forward if, again, assuming the board would like to move forward with this proposal, we would do next steps with them.
So from a hierarchical standpoint, I should view this as kind of the high-level requirements document,
Yes.
and then Millig would be the
There-
doing the design review itself.
Yes, specific to our project with them, which is, HVAC electrical.
Millig will only do HVAC and electrical,
That's all we're agreeing
Well,
to
right.
so far. Yes.
but they're capable across the board, aren't they?
I believe they are capable across the board for what we may have future needs for
How much are we talking about?
on the proposal.
Yeah,
I have not received, because I have not responded that I'm okay with this yet. I have not received a price quote on this. But I can speak to the proposal for the recent juvenile scope. So I have a general idea, and I believe that one was about 24 to 29,000. That's just off the top of my head. I'm not 100%, but that's about the range we'd expect something like this to be, I would imagine.
Even though this is much bigger.
It is much bigger, but that proposal included, I think, a potential design component. I'm not super familiar with the juvenile one. It could be more than that. I don't know. Yeah. This
Thank
is
you.
very early stages, and I understand I just kind of handed this to you. Again, no decisions have to be made. I really want you guys to be able to understand what before I just come to a meeting and ask you to make a decision. So what I can do is respond back with some of the things we've talked about today and get maybe a better idea of price. So I can quote probably better numbers for you guys.
Well, we'll need that for the funders anyway.
Oh, right. Absolutely. Just at this stage, I didn't bring that with me. I really wanted to make sure the board was comfortable before we went further in any way.
You remember how much we paid for the Meng report?
The number that jumps into my head was 200.
Wow.
But
And that was back then.
yeah, that was all the facilities.
Yeah,
too,
and that is
so.
not going, this again, back to what you said is very high level, hoping to guide some decision-making, but it will not be to the extent of the Meng report. And I sent that to them so that they have that and all the groundwork on that front. A lot of it's been laid as far as the Hall of Justice goes.
So if you look at 3 services provided, and I just, item II, engage specialist consultants. I'm having trouble reconciling that with,
Let me get to the right page.
it's on page 2.
Got it. Mhm.
When you start looking at structural engineer, I'm wondering, why
Why?
is a structural engineer there?
Mainly because of the future, the potential expansion of the building. So Commissioner Weber referenced that we have done an addition. There's actually the potential to do another addition under the overhang. And that would require just a structural analysis, I think, in order to give you guys one of these deliverables, which is, should we stay there and expand? So that would be my understanding of why they would be on that list.
I guess the devil is in the detail. It's hard to know. That we know from the plans that we have, you can look at it and you know the land around and, okay, we could expand out to here. It doesn't require any real structural engineering to suggest that we could solve a problem by expanding. Now, actually building the expansion, that's when you need your structural engineer.
And I would just add that because of the conditions of some things that we've discovered recently, like when we were trying to repair and replace the entrance and where we had to get ramjack in and repair due to the ground conditions and the structural integrity, that could be a reason. You'll also note that there is a geotechnical component, which is not included in this. If we decided to go that route, that would just be us. It's not included in here for those reasons, because that's another unknown. It was built, as you've mentioned before, on a sawdust plant along the river. And so we've been learning some of the ramifications of that over time.
But it's resting on bedrock. It's not floating on.
No,
the-
we're
the
not
decayed
sinking. No,
sawdust.
we're not
It's
sinking
It's
there.
just that's, the sewer lines were resting on it. That caused the
It's a potential
stinky
concern.
problem.
And in kind of going back to Commissioner Mortensen's comment that this is a lot of information and a lot of detail. I understand coming and just handing this over. It's not that it's a risk, but I understand that it's a lot of information. Though I anticipate a lot of questions and comments. And so that's why I just wanted to give you guys a week or two to.
I'm not criticizing this as much. I'm looking at it from AEDA now, and somebody's gonna hand me this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not sure what it is I'm gonna do, but it's gonna cost.
Mhm.
So Savannah, you suggested, I think, a monthly call, check-in, or did you
was-
say that?
Yeah,
Yeah, you're gonna come back on a month? No later than 4 months from today.
I'll-
beginning no later.
Yeah. I will probably come back to the board on this in a couple of weeks, but noted on that. Yeah.
Excellent answer.
Um,
So I will look at this more closely, and you
Please.
say I've got an electronic copy?
I will be sending this afternoon once I return back to the office after this meeting. I hope to highlight some high-level bullets that just want to make sure you guys see. And again, Commissioner Dahl's out, so I want him to have a chance to review as well. That was it on this one topic of our two topics. The next topic we had was to workshop ARPA. We're not making a formal request for funds today, but we did want to talk to the board about primarily some of our water sewer projects that we anticipate increasing costs or have had increased costs. So I'll probably pass this over to Susan.
So good afternoon, Susan Eugenius, excuse me, County Engineer. So I did kind of want to start this conversation with you, and we are trying to work with the auditor on the remaining direct obligation funds. So when we came to you 4 years ago, we had a budgeted amount of $8.9 million for our 6 projects that were funded. Our current estimate, I have gotten a recent updates on all of the project, is 14.3 million. So we are now looking at a local project match of just under $5 million.
Which project is on the bottom of the list?
Yes. Is that enough in that pile?
Yeah.
So what do you mean, I guess, what is your, which project is on the bottom of the list? You mean, which one do I like the least?
If you only have X amount of dollars.
Yeah, and that is why I wanted to start this conversation, because our current water sewer capital fund has $4.6 million. So we will not be able to complete these projects with the current estimate and our current dollars amount. So I just kind of wanted to get the juices flowing for working on potentially getting at least $500,000 additional dollars, which will more than cover what we anticipate, and then anticipated changes. The other option is looking at getting us back to our 25% match, which was what we originally were working with. So that is the numbers I'm working with. We're going to be working with the auditors on what the exact amount that they have left on the direct distribution or direct obligation, or whatever the correct term is for these projects. So one of the biggest cost increases is Shadow Mountain. That project, based on the scope of it, has gone up quite significantly. In addition to the ARPA money, we have congressionally directed money on that project also. So we're working on that, and when all of these are 90% design estimates. Everything's in with Department of Health. We have received the approval for, I believe the Riderwood just came in with a few minor comments left for us to address. The same with Toutle water pump stations. So Toutle water pump stations, we're working with WashDOT to get our permitting. So we're really close on all of these projects. So we're anticipating that these are good real-time estimates. And depending on our bid timing, we may get better prices than this.
I'm trying not to be angry or offended. To go from 2 million to 5 million is egregious. To go from, what is it? 750 to 1.15. I mean, we've got, well, to go from 1.2 million to 2.5 also. Were we drinking too much vodka that night?
Which night? The night that I got the estimates, or the nights that we made the initial estimates?
Initial estimates.
I am potentially, yes. The initial estimates were out of an old report, and I do not believe they were inflated enough. Excuse me, not inflated enough. Brought up to current prices. So when we brought them, I had really rough numbers that were given to me, and I went with them. So.
There, So my colleague asked for sort of priorities. I don't recall how you answered that.
I answered, which one do you think is my least favorite? Or
Yeah.
which one do you think I think is the most least important for the community and can wait? So I will tell you the ones I did, the Riderwood Emergency Water Supply. That to me is probably one of the most important on the
Okay.
list. Just because of the issues that we're having out there, and we anticipate them not getting any
How
better.
many homes are out there? Like,
That is about half of our water system.
Anywhere from 400 to 500? Because our water
500 is the
system's
number I remember.
Yeah.
1,300, so.
So that one to me is probably one of our most important, and we have congressionally money going towards that one that is helping make up the shortfall on that particular project, because as you can see, the local dollars on that one is still at 600,000 versus a lot of the other projects where it's higher. So to me, that would be the highest priority that we need to get done for our community. The Camelot Loss System, unfortunately, is also at close to a failure point. So that would be another one that should be done. I'm trying to think of
How many users on that one?
40? Somewhere around that neighborhood, maybe a few less than that. So we have that one where we are kind of ecology wants us to get that project done. So
Explain that. Ecology wants you to get that done?
yes, because the existing system is at the end of life and starting to fail, which
Okay.
is why that one is another one that's higher in importance. The Toutle Water pump stations, that impacts some of our current users where they have low pressure. So it will increase the pressure up to the required amount of the meter that we're required to provide. We have this is two different locations that we will be correcting that low pressure issue, and it also gives us capability to expand in those two locations. So it impacts current users and gives us the potential for future users.
How many users currently? Are we talking about the first one on the list?
Yes, the first one on the list, I don't know that number. I apologize. I will definitely have,
The Toutle Water System serves the community of Toutle, but also East Silver Lake,
yes,
right? And that's where the density, that's where the population is.
yes.
So we're probably looking at 1,200. Not
That's
that high?
That's
Well-
that's for number 5, right?
Well,
So number 5 is the wastewater treatment plant upgrade. These pump station upgrades directly impact a certain percentage of those users, and I do not know that number off the top of my head.
It's a low number, as I remember.
Yes, it's a
very
lower
low
number. It would be on the scale of 30 or 40 would be my guess.
Or even fewer.
Yes, potentially. So there is that one, and that is also an issue that Health Department wants us to address.
Susan, real quick, you mentioned that the pumps would enable, I'm guessing you were alluding to further development if we were to upgrade those?
Yes, because we'd be able to serve areas that we currently can't serve that are near the existing system, but we would be able to expand further along. Down South Silver Lake is where the one where Juanita is. And then the other one is Tower Road, right behind the gas station, right off of the highway. So those are the two areas where we have low pressure zones because there's some hillsides.
What was the name of the road?
So there's Tower Road right off of the highway. So there's so that one has a existing reservoir that the way it serves, some of the people have low pressure. So we're correcting that issue at that location. Then the other location is down off on Juanita, which is off of South Silver Lake Road.
South Silver Lake.
Yes. So
In the Shadow Mountain?
So Shadow Mountain is an expansion to new users, so it does not impact any of our current users. It will be adding area to the system.
So there'll be a pipeline that goes up, what, George Martin to get up to Shadow?
So it's, so there's the existing pump station behind the high school.
Okay.
So there will be a fill line coming from that reservoir running overland up to the top of Shadow Mountain, where we will build a new reservoir that will then serve downward down the hill.
And if the board recalls, this is the area that there were significant water quality issues serving those people on the hill. I think they had come to the board a few years ago, several times.
I remember
Okay,
there was an arsenic issue.
Yes.
that's correct.
So that leaves us with the,
How many arsenic issues? How many people? I mean, we have to be a bit brutal here because
Yes.
this is a lot of money.
it is a lot of money.
And expansion for new users when we have obligations to old users. Seems like it dictates a priority.
So that there would be, I don't know how many lots potential there are in that. I know there's at least 3 existing that have the arsenic issues, and beyond that number, I don't know. But that is information I definitely can be working on to get these answers. And then the Utudo wastewater treatment plant upgrade. In some ways, that would be easier to cut items from, which, as you can see, that one, our original budget was 2.6 and we're at 2.7. So that one is the one that's running closest, and that is because we cut at least one of the upgrade items that was increasing the budget massively. So we were looking at ways to keep that one close to budget. So this is the first step to bring this to your attention, and we will certainly work on getting more of those answers, and if we can find any cost savings in the projects before we go out to bid.
Yeah, I don't think it escapes me or my colleague. This is all in District 3.
So, if we end up in the local match of $5 to $8 million, which sounds like we might be headed that way.
Mhm.
At what point do we bite the bullet and borrow the money based on revenue bonds?
The other option for us, particularly since it's water sewer projects, is we can always go after the drinking water revolving fund loans, which are extremely low interest and then would obligate directly to the water sewer fund. And that would be where we were looking at if we cannot get these down to our cost estimate. Maybe we finish the design on one of these projects and sit it for the next round and finish the projects that we can afford.
Because we also have a deadline on when the ARPA money has to be used, which
Yes.
is 2 years.
And we have to obligate,
We
oh, sorry,
have to
Uh,
obligate by December 31st, of course.
right.
But that's,
um,
we don't have a whole lot left to reallocate.
mm,
As you mentioned, you're going to look at that. Okay, so the revolving fund is a resource available that.
Yes, revolving fund and Public Works Trust Fund. For these type of projects, you have to go to the revolving fund first, and then if you don't get those, you can go to the Public Works Trust Fund. But they are all both sources out there, and they have low interest rates, and they go even lower if it's a distressed community.
Yeah, before I get terribly interested in that, I need to see the forecast of the next 10 to 20 years. We're going to put in so many millions of dollars. We'll borrow the money up front. I
Mhm.
want to see how the users are going to pay for that over the next 20 years. So I'll bet you it doesn't pencil out at this point. Also, I am reminded that what discussion would we be having if we hadn't gotten that ARPA windfall?
So if we hadn't have
Very
gotten.
weird to me.
Yeah, if we hadn't have gotten that ARPA windfall, we would have worked on the drought funding availability for Riderwood. So we would have gone with the direct congressionally directed money, which is $1 million. And there was also a lot of drought funds, water drought funds, climate resiliency money that project would have been available for. So we would have gone after that for that. Shadow Mountain,
You wouldn't have touched.
unfortunately, no. Camelot lost because it's a failing system. We would have gone the drinking
do
water revolving fund, and eventually we would have done the 2 different systems and the 2-to-water pump station that way. And the wastewater treatment plant upgrades probably would have been done piecemeal.
To me, that sort of answers the question.
One of the things I do want to look at is one of the things you alluded to was how are the users going to pay for this? I really believe we need to do a good rate study for our water sewer systems because one has not been done for a while. I am looking at our system development charges because ours are quite a bit lower than everybody else. I mean, significantly lower. So I want to look at least upgrading those before we do a rate study. That's something that Sean and I have been talking about, working on potentially bringing it this fall for just the system development charge. And then next year, trying to do a rate study so that we have good knowing what we're going forth. Because besides these projects, we have the Woodbrook project going on because that's an ecology. Also, that system is starting to, the treatment plant is past its end of life, and we're working on that study of replacement. But we're also going to have to do an I&I project prior to being able to replace the treatment plant. I&I is inflow and infiltration for people who don't work in the field every day. We're working on that study and design right now. Then we have the treatment plant. So those 2 projects alone are going to be another $2 to $3 million easily. And then other projects that Patrick said were on the list before he left were the Tootle sewer system I&I improvements and the Riderwood distribution main realignment, and eventually maybe potentially a Camelot fire flow upgrade because they currently do not have fire protection in the Camelot neighborhood. The Tootle system I&I improvements, that is something that instead of doing it all in one fell swoop, we could plan it out, break it out into areas and do much smaller projects instead of trying to do a big $2 or $3 million project. You do a $400,000 project with that year's capital funding and then do another one and just work your way slowly through the system.
So if you identify neighborhoods that are low income, you may qualify for community development block grants
Yes.
as well. I know the city of Longview did that in the Highlands area from 40 years ago.
Yep, Kelso did it in North Kelso in the early 2000s. They did a lot of sewer replacements up in the North Kelso area. So, and I know the county did, I believe Riderwood qualified when they did an I&I project up there in the early 2000s.
Camelot would probably.
Camelot would.
And so another question that I had, you may not know, but the biggest development in North County in the last couple of years is the Space Age gas station and development. Are they on well water or are they supplied by Castle Rock? It's a little ways away from Castle Rock.
I'm not 100% sure. to be honest.
Tootle Park might also be economically depressed too.
Depressed
It's
area.
kind of spotty. I mean,
Yeah.
depends on when you do the survey and how many people are camped out at Tootle Park RV. But
It's based off census, yes, and they look at a couple different ways to do it. If you apply for a CDBG grant, you can do it based on census tract, or you can go out and do a economic survey, and then where you, so like, if we were looking at Camelot, you would have to do a economic survey because everybody else in that tract is not in distress like they are. So you would have to do a specific survey for that neighborhood. But yes, you can do it either way. You just have to have your methods approved when you do the surveys.
I only asked because we, in trying to secure parks funding for Riverside Parks, we found that it was very difficult to use the census. And there's actually very few small pockets that qualify there in unincorporated areas, which I had no idea. So that's why I asked.
One of the other data points that they look at, especially so it doesn't help in our unincorporated areas most, but if, let's say Rose Valley Elementary School, 50 or 75% of the school population qualified for free and
Free student
reduced
lunches.
lunch, that you can contribute to your distress also.
Yep.
so you mentioned Woodbrook as having future sewer line problems.
Yes.
I know that if I remember correctly, Beacon Hill supplies the water
They do.
begrudgingly, I understand. And I know they've been pretty adamant that they're not interested in helping out with the sewer treatment, but Beacon Hill doesn't do sewer treatment anyway.
Correct.
They just put it in a pipeline down to the
Yes.
regional treatment plant. It's not that far to send a line across to West Side Highway from Ostrander.
And that
Okay.
is one of the alternatives we're looking at. So we started off just doing an alternative study, and the ecology came back and said, well, no, first you have to address your I&I issue.
Okay.
So that's what we're doing first. And then we're going to get back to the alternatives analysis where we will look at replacing our plant, doing a pump station and connecting it into Beacon Hill, and then a couple different plant options, or figuring out, yes. So that is one of the options we're looking at.
So when you determine rates, all of these various systems that we supply water to have their own rates. It's all combined.
It's all combined, yes.
And same thing with the sewer customers. It's all, so Camelot and the Tootle sewer customers pay the same rate.
Yes,
So you try to spread the costs out over as many people as possible.
yes.
Okay. Even though Camelot is on septics,
Yes.
giant septic, large lot septic, whatever. they
Large
call it.
on-site septic
Large
systems,
on-site.
yes.
That's why it's called loss.
That's why it's called
Yes.
loss. No, we just lose the sewage, we collect it and make it disappear.
Mhm. And that's too far away to send down to the treatment plant.
It is a little far away to send south. There was, I know at one point, a discussion of kind of forcing it over the river to Castle Rock, but that didn't pencil out.
Tough to go uphill. And
That's what pumps are for.
we did add some pumps in South Castle Rock.
Mhm.
I don't want to clean those pumps.
I was thinking a poop pump. Is that what they are for sewage?
They're called a sewer pump. They're called a sewer pump, yeah. And you have to be careful. You have to grind up. So when I worked at Kelso, they kept having problems with one of their pump stations because people at the jail kept flushing sheets. So they would get all caught up in their pumps. So they had to work with that. That was back when the jail was in the Hall of Justice, and then directly discharged to the Kelso system.
That was after they fixed it, because when it plugged up, it rained on the judges.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
All right. That was a long time ago, though.
It was early 2000s.
Oh, wait a minute, that's
I
not
have
that
the-
long ago.
My woodworking shop, I have the vacuums and occasionally I suck up a rag.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't work very well.
No, and that becomes an issue in your sewer pump stations. That's why there's usually a grinder involved. Okay, so I'll work on getting more information on all of these so that when we come back and work with the auditors to find out what money we have and then we can have a
You gotta-
verbose
Yeah,
discussion, yeah.
you gotta admire Mike Moss. The hard conversation was now, not earlier today.
We praised the way he was running the office.
I think that is all we have unless the board has any other items for us. And I think you have risk weighting.
You good?
Yep, yep, I think so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I love saying this. We're now at risk.
Thank you. Mm.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Shelley Pierce, Risk Manager. So yesterday, we notified the board of our intentions to hire outside counsel for the current and pending workers' compensation claims. This step is necessary due to the technical complexities involved, which requires specialized legal expertise beyond our current resources. So the document is authorized for special counsel documents and was prepared and ready for all requested signatures.
Pretty straightforward stuff. The only question I have is, do you need a signature today? If you do, you,
By tomorrow, I know Commissioner Dahl's out of the office, so I think as soon as possible, but whenever we can get the signatures obtained. We've already obtained legal counsel, so they're just waiting on this document as a legal formality.
The most important page is page number 6.
yep. Go
And the
Page 5.
Second most important page is page 3, clause 3, termination.
Oh, good point. No, we've done this before with
Yes.
Doug, and far be it for me to even pretend I'll find something.
And as I understand, our legal in-house representation is very familiar with who's representing us and is very impressed and excited to partner with them.
So the vice chair can't sign when the chair is gone?
Yes, actually, you just have to cross. I checked this with Doug yesterday. You just have to cross the name out.
Oh,
and
okay.
You can write Arn.
So I,
So then,
I'm okay
yes,
with
we
having
can get it done
Okay, I'll
today.
sign it then.
Okay,
yeah, we can do it that way.
Thank you.
thank you very much.
That was a lot easier than the first one.
Easy peasy, lemon squeezy.
You want me to sign this particular one?
Sure. Thank you.
And this is the one that deals with the $80 million lawsuit?
Well, my handwriting is so bad, I think you'll probably fill out. Correct. No, I've got old man palsy.
Cursive? Nope. It's because banks don't require signatures or
And they were printing their names, no signature, but they don't do that.
well, Mom, you're gonna have to do a little homeschooling.
Good night. So we're at the miscellaneous point. No hands up? I hope you have a great vacation. Tell me a little bit about the,
Maybe you can zoom in. So we try to provide a county free zone.
that's at a timeshare?
Yeah.
Timeshare on a lake?
It's actually on a golf course near Columbia Falls, but that's close to Flathead Lake. Got a special facility.
Okay, do you golf? Flathead Lake probably has a bicycle trail around it. You want to borrow a bike?
No, we're not to that level of activity. Next time.
That's what I keep on saying. Well, let me conclude this session and adjourn. We are adjourned.